Last year, we launched 2,146 cold email campaigns and sent nearly 1.5 million emails. The difference between the ones that performed and the ones that flopped wasn't copy or offer, it was having these 5 components in place. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what this system looks like so that by the end of the video, you can either build it yourself or know whether you might be better off outsourcing it. So this is how to build an outbound system that actually works, the 2026 playbook. Component number 1 is infrastructure. Now this is the foundation layer. If you don't get this right, everything else is going to fail. So essential setup, you need to have multiple sending domains. So you want to have, if you're acme.com, try acme.com, acmeteam.com, get acme.com. And the important thing about this is it separates your sending from your main inboxes, from your main email infrastructure at your company, and so you don't get any issues internally. You want to warm those up for 2 to 4 weeks minimum before you launch any kind of campaigns. You want to monitor deliverability. So a lot of the common sending tools, sending platforms like SmartLead, Instantly allow you to do this through them now. Technical DNS records, so that's SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. And really these days I wouldn't waste any time setting this up yourself. I'd go to resellers like premiuminboxes.com, and what you can do through them is get all of this set up with a single click, and that way you can get warming up and get to market a lot faster. So on the right side, we have the checklist. So purchase your secondary domains. If you want to start small scale, you purchase 2 to 3. I'd normally recommend 10 to 20. And then on each, setting up 2 to 3 inboxes. Set up the DNS records, configure email warming, install deliverability monitoring, test inbox placement, and then monitor reply rates and action as appropriate. Component number 2 is targeting. So you really want to go beyond basic firmographics. When people started doing this a few years ago, it was enough just to say first name, and people thought that the emails were custom, right? Now what you really want to do is go beyond any of that kind of thing and look laser in on who your ideal client is. So we have level 1, which is firmographics, which is industry, company size, revenue, location, all good stuff, right? That's all fine. We have technographics, so what tech stack are they using? What recent tech have they adopted at the company? Then we have intent signals, so recent hiring posts, funding announcements, changes with their website, product launches, content that they're engaging with. If you're able to get these kinds of signals, your outreach is going to land much, much better. So in terms of the checklist, to find your ideal client profile, ICP, identify 3 to 5 buying signals for your ICP in particular, source data from multiple providers, enrich those lists with intent data, verify contact information accuracy, and segment lists by signal strengths. You might have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 leads you're just going to reach out to. Tier 2, maybe you're going to, also send them a LinkedIn message. Tier 3, maybe you're going to also call those people. And you're targeting a 20% close rate from booked calls. Component number 3 is messaging. So the anatomy of an email that gets responses, I've written down here. So line 1, personalized observation. So that might be something like, notice you're hiring for an account manager. The purpose of this really is just to get them to read the next line. And what's happened recently is, for example, if there's a funding round, tons of people are going to send to that person, hey, just saw that you got a funding announcement. So sometimes we actually like to go against the grain, but really to be on the safe side, what you want to do is just make sure that this email actually gets opened and read. And when someone actually opens up the email, let's say on their iPhone, what they're going to see before they even open it is the subject line and this first line. So you want to make it relevant to them. From there, a specific pain point. So what is the actual pain that you can surface that is going to happen as a result of what you've said in the first line? So an observation is just an observation, right? That anyone can do that. But what you really want to do to show that you actually understand them is what specific pain point is that observation going to bring to the surface for that person? From there, proof that you've solved this, right? So what you want to do here is either you can give a short value proposition or you can just go into social proof, right? So you can say, we help XYZ to do this, or we've actually helped a company that's similar to you. And the more similar you can make that social proof to their company and to that individual, the more successful the cold email is going to be. And then CTA, low friction ask. So a lot of the time here, we like to just say, can I send over more information? Can I send over the case study? Can I send a one-pager? Can I send a short video? Something like that just to get a response. And then once you've got a response and they're in your funnel, that's when, you can start sending them LinkedIn messages. You can call. All you need is that initial response from the person to show that they're actually interested and potentially in market. So here, with messaging, you want to write 3 to 5 variations per campaign, A/B test your subject lines, personalize the first line for each prospect at least, and that's if you're not personalizing the entire email, either through having custom fields or through using a tool like Twain or Octave that allows you to build fully custom emails for each individual. You want to include specific proof points, keep the CTA to one simple question, and review for spam trigger words. So you're targeting a 10% positive reply rate of all of the replies that you get. So of the replies that you get, at least 10% of those should be positive. Then we have follow-up systems and inbox management. So we've already mentioned, the email structure that works. So problem and solution. And then, email 2, you want to really ideally hit them with a different angle. So if your initial email has been about making them more money, maybe you switch to saving time or to, reducing costs, right? Those are going to be the 3 main drivers for B2B. And so really what you might want to do if that initial angle hasn't landed, hasn't elicited a response from the prospect, maybe you want to try a different angle and see if that gets a response. Or the alternative is just to throw in more social proof or some more details on how you actually achieve what you've mentioned in the first email. And then email 3, the final email. So here again, you might want to just give them some more social proof, or you might want to give them, again, some more detail on how you've done it. Or again, you can try a different offer. So if you've said, we can help make you more money, then you've said we can help actually reduce the time you spend. Then maybe you say in the final email, hey, we can actually reduce the cost of what you're currently doing. You want to change the angle, like I said, not just bumping this up, because people really get bored of that. And each email should be able to stand alone, but also follow on from the email above. So you want to kind of tell a story through those emails. Really, at this point, we stop after 3 emails, if not 2, because really at this, we have, especially with clients where you might have a larger total addressable market, it's much more worthwhile to contact more people within that total addressable market than to just keep sending emails to the same people. And then if you come back a month or 2 later, maybe their situation has changed, and maybe at that time your offer is actually relevant to them. So in terms of categorizing replies and inbox management, you want to qualify people immediately once they reply. And then you want to book as soon as you can. So ideally, you can book them the same day or the next day. If not, try to book them as close to when they've replied as possible. When it comes to objections and questions, you should have pre-prepared responses. And one super easy thing you can do is compile a document with your previous sales calls. So 10, 20, 30 previous sales calls. Go through those and see and put them into an AI tool of your choice and ask, what are the common objections, what are the common questions that come up here? And then ask for a formulated response, or you can go in and manually create that response. But you should be in a position where you can respond to people almost immediately, because speed to lead is of vital importance. And then, if they say, not interested right now, but can you reach out in 30 days, next quarter, something like that, you should have a way. And most of the common sending tools, like I mentioned previously, Smart Lead, Instantly, are going to allow you to do this, where you can put people into subsequences. And that means you're enrolling them into a follow-up sequence. And so, for example, if they do say, can you reach out next quarter, then you just put them into that subsequence. And when next quarter rolls around, then you'll start following them up automatically. If they're out of office, then you want to follow them up once they're back in office. Again, you can normally do this automatically with these tools. And if they're not interested, you want to remove them from your list. If they say, please remove me, then you want to add them to the suppression list, because emailing people who've opted out is not good for anyone. Combine checklists, so map the sequence angles before launch, set the automated timing delays, which is super easy through Smart Lead, Instantly, etc. Create response templates for those common objections, like I mentioned. You want to configure zero friction booking, so Calendly, HubSpot, whatever you're using, you want to make it easy so that generally you're going to be the person suggesting times, you're going to be the person who is booking those calls, but sometimes you want to just give them your Calendly and make it super easy for them to actually book the call themselves. And on the topic of, those common objections, like I mentioned, what you don't want to be doing is handling objections in the inbox, right? So if someone has a question or an initial objection, you might want to respond to that, but ideally you want to push them to a call, because at that point they've then entered your sales funnel, and then you are the person in control. Really, if you start answering all of their questions and going back and forth over email with a long email thread, what's likely to happen is the conversation is not going to go the way that you wanted. You might end up giving them a price, and that price obviously doesn't make sense because they lack context of what they get for that price, etc. So really the overall goal should be to push them to a meeting. You want to define the handoff process to the sales team and track response to booked conversion rate. So targeting 20% plus of positive replies converting to book calls. If you have this fully optimized and you're calling, you're sending LinkedIn messages, you can see figures, far in advance of that. If you're just replying to them via email, you want to aim for that 20% plus. So in terms of build versus buy, time investment. So, 6 to 12 months to really become competent across all 5 components that I mentioned at the top of this. 14 to 28 days for initial infra setup. Then ongoing management is really likely to be 10 to 15 hours per week minimum. And that's when you include, managing the inboxes, replying to those people, nurturing the people who've responded, and then also coming up with new kind of angles, coming up with new subject lines, A/B tests, analyzing all of the data, etc. In terms of required skills, you're going to need email deliverability and infrastructure, data sourcing and enrichment, B2B copywriting, CRM and automation setup, and also sales qualification. Hidden costs, so tool stack, you're looking at 500 to 1500 plus per month. SDR salary, 60 to 80k per year base. You've got management overhead, ramp time, 3 to 6 months, turnover and rehiring. So we know that average tenure tends to be kind of in the 6-month range, and opportunity cost of your time. So year 1 true cost, you're looking at a cost of probably in the 120 to 150k range. To give you a real example of when building in-house fails, so we work with a data and marketing agency. They had tried building an internal BDR team. They'd hired, trained, given them tools, and a budget of kind of 100k per year plus. Now, they described that to us as a disaster. The reason it didn't work is, from my perspective, one person is expected to master all 5 of these specialized skills, like I mentioned. If you have issues with infrastructure, that's going to kill your deliverability off the bat. And so you really need at least one specialized person devoted specifically to that. And then inconsistent targeting gives you inconsistent results. If you don't have a systematic follow-up process on the back end, you're going to struggle. And reply handling, again, is something that you need to be really quick to leads for those to convert into meetings, as I said previously. And if you're not doing that because you're tied up with other things, then your meeting booking rate from those positive replies is going to be super low. So essentially, if you hire one person and expect them to kind of handle all of these different things, it's doomed to be a failure. What changed? So we separated pipeline generation from pipeline conversion for them, systematic approach to all 5 components, and allowed their sales team to focus purely on closing. Now, the result is a consistent 7 to 15 qualified calls per month, $2.5 million in pipeline generated within the last 12 months, and a really happy sales team because all they have to do is focus on closing the calls that they get. So in terms of a kind of final decision framework, should you build yourself or outsource? So build it yourself if you have 6 to 12 months to learn and iterate, you have technical resources for infrastructure, you're willing to hire and manage an SDR, and outbound will be a core competency for your company. I'd say outsource it if you need qualified pipeline right now, you don't want to become an infrastructure expert, and you've tried hiring an SDR or an SDR team before and it potentially failed. So this is the complete implementation checklist. I will leave a link to this document in the description. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you want us to set this up for your team or potentially just even talk about what that might look like, again, we set this up for companies in the marketing and advertising and professional services space, and we handle all of this on an ongoing basis. So the link to book a call with me will be in the description.